14 News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Champions League nights on Off the Ball. Bigger than Zlatan's Eco. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Well, Everton, strange old times really. They get Carlo Ancelotti, they're delighted. He's a big name, he's footballing royalty. They're spending money, the new stadium's on the way, and it's all just a bit meh. Not terrible, but a bit meh. And they finish 10th, and suddenly then Carlo up sticks, says thank you very much for the 11 million sterling a year he was moving, and heads back to Real Madrid. And Everton are not too sure how to feel about that, so we're going to ask Patrick Boyland of The Athletic. Are they that sad to see Ancelotti go? Nuno Espirito Santo seems to be the early favourite to get the job. So Patrick Boyland will join us later on. 53106, the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. We'll get the view on what's going on in Merseyside. But David Sneyd is with us. Hello, David.
Evening, Joe. What's the crack?
Yeah, all good. So a few things to talk to you about. Obviously, this Livescore news, pretty interesting. Champions League rights have changed a lot from our youth growing up watching Bill and the three lads. It's all very different now. And obviously, there is an Ireland match tomorrow. Wanted to throw something at you first of all, though. I suspect this is going to be a thing, it would seem. It's happening at too many grounds now where fans are there. So a bunch of friendlies on this evening. I'll give you the scores in a second, everybody. But just on... what's kind of been discussed on Twitter, debated on Twitter at length. England are playing Austria this evening at the Riverside Stadium in Middlesbrough, and here's BBC 5 Live commentary of the game, and it's John Murray here on commentary, so we'll just join it here as the players take the knee, and you can probably guess what's about to happen.
So the game about to begin. Well, that is quite a reaction to the players taking a knee. There was a lot of booing there. I have to say, I'm quite taken aback by how loud that was. But now it has been, after a moment there, that was drowned out by applause, and we're ready for the start of the match.
There we are.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's what it was going to be, because I actually watching the start of it and I saw it happen, and it's believe it or not, one of my uncles is actually from Middlesbrough. And he's lived in Ireland for the last 30 odd years, and he's the only person that I can go off, and I can safely say it's not representative of the people I know who are from Middlesbrough and his family. But it was quite a surprise to hear how loud those boos were when I was watching it on TV.
Like there's something brewing here. I don't know what the objection to it is, but it's forcefully felt by loads of people, and it's like very easy and tempting to dismiss them as idiots or worse, and that's probably not the right thing to do. But at the same time, you just look at this very simple gesture which was born off the back of the George Floyd death, which the footballers understood and intended to mean this is a stance against racism. That's all it is. It's a simple gesture against racism, clearly hugely important to a lot of the black players, and you would hope the white players agree with that and are standing in solidarity, and that's all it's meant to be. It's a gesture, and it's a pretty simple thing, and I don't know how it's become this point of contention now where it's being booed. I get if you're looking at it, it's a bit empty, it's a bit hollow, I don't like it, but like to be absolutely hating this thing where you're booing that loudly in a stadium, booing black players taking a knee. I don't know, like this is now going to become a thing all summer.
Well, first of all, you'd hope it's not, especially because there's going to be quite a few games in England too. Like it's hard to comprehend what would drive someone to actually boo what taking a knee is all about, because it's about fighting racism, it's about fighting discrimination, it's about promoting equality. That's essentially what it is. It's basically a sign of decency for people. And if you actually cannot just see that, well then, to be honest, like there's not, I don't know, right? I don't know all those people who are in that stadium, but I would not want to be associated with any single person in that stadium who was doing that, because they're not decent people. They're just not. and you can't sugarcoat it. I know I mentioned there. My initial first instinct was I was going to ring my uncle and was like, what's going on there? Like, you know, the guy kind of slag him because they're called smoggies, people from Middlesbrough, because of the industry and all the rest of it. And I always slag him, but he's a thoroughly decent fella. But at the same, and my first instinct was to think of him, you know. But at the same time, like, how else can you describe those people other than people who just aren't decent?
Yeah, I don't know. That's, really. Yeah, I don't know, because you can get into you can get into the area giving too much credit. Sorry.
I don't think you can look at any other way. If you boo what that stands for, you're basically showing yourself up for you don't believe in equality of human beings. So where does that leave you as a person? You're nowhere. So you shouldn't, like, there's no other way of describing it. You can't, like, I don't think it's something that you look for nuance in. I don't think you look for trying to see that other point of view. If you're to be on what taking the knee stands for, you can know, listen, I know Wilfred Zaha, he said he doesn't want to do it because he feels it won't achieve anything or something like that, that's a different argument.
It is, yeah.
But if you're building what it actually stands for, well then, like, lowest of the low.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, I think we should definitely listen to the people booing and see what their logic is, and because I can't figure it out. I mean, initially, when this kind of started, there were people saying, well, this is about the Black Lives Matter movement and there's extreme aspects to that political movement and so on and so forth. But, like, that is not what the understanding of the players was. You know, the players here are not getting into that. It's not a Black Lives Matter movement on the players' behalf, I don't think. I interpret it as George Floyd was killed in this manner. This highlights the racism around the world, which is systemic. We need to do something about this. And it was a very emotional time, and they took the knee, and they've continued taking the knee. It's just that simple point. And if you asked any of the players, why are you taking the knee? I guarantee you that's all they'd say. And so to try and almost, laden it with some ulterior, state control. I don't even know. Like, I think, as you said, there's a danger of giving them too much credit here, that this is thought out beyond the obvious, which is the obvious is a really grim thought, that they just boo it because they don't want, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it was like a racist. I know that's horrible to say, but that's what it's about here. Like there is some confusion, because sometimes you hear stuff like, when after the knee is taken, sometimes they say it's to fight discrimination or it's to fight racism, or they'll explicitly say it's Black Lives Matter. There's no, but like I'm saying, it's just that as like literally like a white person in a serious place of privilege. I just see it as it's a sign of strength against discrimination and standing up to it by taking a knee, and also just showing a bit of decency, that you actually acknowledge what's going on in the world. And if you can't see that, and you can't actually accept that, and you think, oh, it's all lives matter and all this nonsense, like, I'm sorry, but like, it's I know obviously I wasn't really expecting to talk about it, and you caught me on the hop a small bit, but like, it's the natural reaction is to just not give them the credit that sometimes people naturally would want to try and see what the other side of the argument is. I just don't think they deserve a single ounce of it. No, I think, look, we're both caught in the hop. I only heard the audio about a minute ago before coming on air, so I just said to JP, our producer, look, I've just seen this, let's grab it, let's play it out, and let's see what people think. We might play it again just if you're tuning in. So this is John Murray, BBC 5 Live, and the England game is kicking off, and I mean, he's even taken aback. This, as you'll hear, this is not 100 people booing. This is a lot more.
So the game about to begin. Well, that is quite a reaction to the players taking a knee. There was a lot of booing there. I have to say, I'm quite taken aback by how loud that was. But now it has been, after a moment there, that was drowned out by applause, and we're ready for the start of the match.
Yeah, like, penny for your thoughts if you're a black player on that pitch in an England jersey. That's what's really kind of terrible. That was it, because I mean,
again, I was actually watching it just as I was doing a bit of prep, and well, that is telling that, in fairness as well, like, it did get drowned out pretty quickly, but it was very loud. Like, it wasn't, like you say, it wasn't just whatever, like something. It wasn't something you could dismiss as a minority. It was a significant, and even just where the camera angle was, I think the player who was close to in shot was the young lad Saka, who was at Arsenal, and as he got up, I was just kind of thinking, like, as you were saying there, like, what's going what's he thinking? Like, why? He's probably thinking, why do I want to play in front of this?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why? Like, and not even just him. Like, remember when it did start? I think it was Burnley Man City game, and I think the Burnley fans fly a plane over the Etihad, saying something like "All lives matter."
Yeah.
Talking about that, and Ben Mee, the Burnley captain, came out after the game and he spoke very well about it, just as a club, just taking the fans are the people who did it to task and slaughtering them basically, and calling them out for what they were and what it stood for about that equality and stuff. And I'm sure it isn't, and in fairness, English FA over the last few years, like what they've done with changing the with changing the perception around the team, and not so much the perception, but like the link between, say, the media and the fans. I think there's a lot more love for the English team now, and I think it's something that you'll see that they'll get on top of over the next couple of days, that they'll make a stand with it, you know.
Yeah, they should do. Look, we'll move off it. I mean, my instinct is to almost want to hear the people who are booing interviewed and to hear what they have to say, hear what their logic is. At the moment, I just don't see a logic. This is not PC gone mad. This is not state control. This is not Black Lives Matter. You're so opposed to the intricacies of the politics of that movement. I don't know what this is, as you said, beyond something very worrying, which is outright racism. This is a simple gesture on the players' behalf against racism, nothing more, against discrimination, nothing more. And you might think it's a bit hollow and think it's served its purpose now because it happens all the time and it's happening thoughtlessly and therefore it's lost its impact. Wilfred Zaha was clearly of that opinion, and that's a different point, as you said. But like, I think that's an okay perspective to have if you want to have it. Personally, I think what is the harm? And it's a little reminder every time that, you know, a lot of people feel that this issue has not been dealt with properly. But it's a different stratosphere to boo it loudly and to be supposedly then trying to clap the same players 2 seconds later, when frankly I think a lot of those players would turn around and look at you with absolute disgust the way you behaved. So I don't know. I hope those fans are interviewed after the game. I'm now, because this is going to be a thing, I'm now curious enough to know, right, what is your logic for behaving this way? Because the vast majority of people don't understand why you're booing this, and to the vast majority it's despicable. So you really need to explain this now. And the bigger picture is, if this, because like every single England game is at Wembley bar one, so this has the potential to be such a horrible divisive thing across the Euros. Do the Premier League get together and say, oh look, this thing is just more hassle than it's worth, we need to bin this, new season, fresh start, we're going to leave it behind?
I don't think he can do that. I think if it's something that the players believe in strongly, because it's even something that even like Tyrone Mings, obviously, who's in that England team and playing tonight actually as well, like he's pretty prominent in terms of when the campaign began, as a voice for it and talking about what it was, and it was talking about discrimination, and it was talking about like bringing these issues to the fore, and like a lot of stuff now is player led, which is great.
Yeah,
on a different context, Marcus Rashford and what he's achieved, but like I don't think the Premier League are going to be in a position where they can just say, you know what, you can't do this anymore. I think it's going to come from the players. The players will decide. They'll be the ones to say, well, what's going to happen next? Because, like, in fairness, like, it is this new, don't want to overarch it, but like this age of where players kind of have found our voice a little bit and realise that they actually can do so much more than maybe what's been done previously. So I don't think and I think the worst thing they could do is say, do you know what, it's not worth the hassle, because it 100% is worth the hassle.
So, like, for instance, an anonymous texter has texted in to say, and like, honestly, if this is the strength of the argument that's going to be coming from the booers,
if he's anonymous, right? If he's anonymous, he doesn't even deserve it to be read out. Well, I'm sorry for like, getting angry, but like,
he's speculating.
Like, if this fella, whoever it is, and I haven't even heard what it is yet, but if someone's anonymously texting in about this issue and hasn't even got the balls to put his name to it, well, then that shows you where this argument is. That shows you the person he is. Now, listen, I could be totally wrong and jump the gun. Yeah. But like, I've no time for what he has to say. If he hasn't even got the gumption and the credit to put his name to an argument that's something to do with decency and to do with respect for human beings, what's the point? Well,
he or she says, lads, they're not booing against racism, they're booing against taking the knee because it's outdated now and people are sick of it. Just get on with the game.
Would you give over? Would you cop yourself on me? Who is it? Like, come here. Come here.
Don't worry about it. I mean,
Andorra, what?
It's 3, 4, 5 seconds. get on with the game. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5 seconds. And when you say it's outdated, the problem with racism is not outdated. None of the players feel that. And the booing would only further their argument that it's far from outdated. I don't know.
Chains are outdated. Bill cut chains are outdated. Standing up for what's right in the world and standing up for your fellow man and woman. That's just common decency. And if people are in a position now where they can actually do it and feel as if they can actually make what they feel is a stand, all the power.
And a last point, again, to state the obvious here. Even if you look at this and you think this is a little corporate and this is a little bit PR and you don't actually believe that a lot of the players taking the knee are really thinking too deeply about the issue, they're just doing it because everyone else is doing it. That all may be true, right? But understand the rationale behind doing it. Understand that it does mean a huge amount to a lot of those players out there. And more to the point, there's no need to boo if you think all those things. Just stand there and think to yourself, yeah, I could take or leave this, or I think this is outdated, or I think this is a little bit PR-y for me. Think all those things. That's no problem. Maybe even say them to your mates when you're having a chat and you're debating the rights and wrongs of it. But to boo it, I mean, this is different. This is kind of a different level, and for that many people to boo it, so I don't know. This ain't boo and var, you know. This is different. This is really different.
But I must say, and even this, like I'm 33 years of age this summer, right? And I have to even admit now, since this has happened, it's actually, I've actually felt in this, not that I've been out because obviously lockdown, but I'm in a situation now where before you would hear stuff out and about and you might think, I don't agree with that, but you say nothing, you keep your mouth shut and you kind of ignore it. And whenever I felt as if I was part of an issue because I ignored stuff that had been said in company or that I would have heard. And whereas now I actually feel, do you know what? And it's only because, and I'll be honest, it's only because over the last year or so where I actually feel, you know what, actually, if you do hear something, you have to call it out. Even if it's a friend, even if it's in family, you have to call it out.
Yeah.
And there's no other way of going about it. Like this is just a totally different example, and I'm probably going off on a tangent, but it's something that's stuck in my head for years, right? So I used to live in Manchester, and I used to sell the Man United fanzine, United We Stand, Matt Busby Way before games. And United fans would be very good sales policing in terms of genuinely would not have heard racist stuff. But there was for a period when Emmanuel Adebayor played for Man City after he left Arsenal, and there was a song, and I won't go into what the song was, but it basically referenced, it's well known at this point because how bad it was, but basically it referenced how one of his parents was watching elephants back in Africa, right? And I remember seeing these fellas singing, and they got called out, and they got a bit of a hiding by people of self-police. And obviously you can't justify maybe the violence for it, but that kind of stuck with me. And it actually, in terms of how sometimes you have to deal with these people, and some of those people who are beyond, I would like to think that if there was people who are clapping beside it, they might have given them something a bit more stronger than a clap around the head, you know, because sometimes that's all it needs to get a bit of sense into people too.
Let's chat about what you're actually on to chat about. So sorry, that's an 18-minute tangent there, but that's just kind of arrived that news in the last kind of while. We wanted to bring it to you. So Livescore. We were saying on the news round, I mean, I've Livescore, I presume you've Livescore. I get maybe Livescore is far more popular than I ever thought. I haven't never gone around asking people if they have Livescore on their phone, but it's generally actually my go-to in terms of getting scores. So they have snapped up the Champions League rights package for Ireland. 16 games will still be on RTE on Tuesday nights. They've retained first pick, so you'd presume they're really good games on a Tuesday night. There are 16 games for Wednesday night matches, again first pick, which haven't been snapped up yet. We don't know where they're going to go. I'm not speaking with any insider info. I mean, I would presume Virgin will be interested given they've done the Champions League for the last number of years, but I don't know where they're going at all. That's TBC. BT are still going to hold the rights in Ireland and will show all the games as well. I don't think BT is as popular here, certainly as Sky. So on Livescore, all 137 matches in the Champions League from group stages right through to final will be streamed on the app. I mean, the two things I wondered about were, will we be able to Chromecast these easily enough onto our TVs? It seems we will, so that's good news. And then I was also kind of wondering about the quality of coverage around the games, and will we be getting studio treatment, or will it be just, generic commentary team that we don't really know, and half time of ads and maybe the commentary team talking over highlights of the first half for 2 minutes, and then no post-match analysis, which would be kind of not great, I suppose, given what we were all raised on, and how important the kind of panel is here and how much we like our punditry here. So I know you've been looking into all this. I've given just the bare details. What are you hearing or what are you writing about?
Yeah, so I basically for the piece not so long ago. It's going to be going up with the Irish Examiner later on and being in the paper tomorrow. It's interesting that you mentioned BT, because I was speaking to a couple of people just in Irish TV and sports and stuff, and not that there's no merit about it, but a lot of people kind of don't want to kind of just will give you stuff off the record to use and stuff rather than wanting to kind of put their head above the parapet, so to speak. But it's interesting, the BT deal, like it's 1.2 billion to UEFA for over 3 years, like 400 million quid a year, and the sense from a lot of some people, especially within the Irish market, is that that's kind of been a bit of a game changer in terms of UEFA's attitude, whereby originally before that they would have been very big on keeping things terrestrial and keeping things free to air for as many people as possible, because that helped drive obviously say ad revenue and all the rest of it, because they point to more viewers. And obviously you're talking there about the RTE panel and the voice of, it's mad, but for me, growing up in the 90s, it would have been like Clyde Tilsley and ITV and Ron Atkinson and was it Gary Newman on back in the day on ITV. But there's some of the stuff that's been said to me is that like UEFA now are kind of have stepped away a little bit away. They're not too fussed now about quality control, and they're not too fussed about if it is going to the maximum amount of people. They just want to get as much money in as possible, and they realise now that that's where it's going. And you're talking there, like a guy got in touch with Livescore, and like they wouldn't confirm if they're going to even have a studio with guests. And it's like normally before it would have been put to me that would have been the bit key thing as part of say a contract would be, and I know it's going to be maybe boring for people who aren't say in an industry, but it's also key to them if it's part of their viewing experience, that like quality stuff in terms of you had to have a studio to get the rights. Yes. So like they might like you can't just like a fella, venture capitalists could come in and say, right, we'll give you X amount of money, but they've got no infrastructure there to actually provide quality. UEFA back before maybe would have ignored the higher bid and gone with maybe something that was more sustainable, that kept their product on a certain level in terms of TV production. Whereas now, it's not the case. Like, and there is they could still rent a studio, I suppose, Livescore, and have maybe couple of guests and do it for all the games, but it's not going to be a kind of prerequisite really. They don't think that maybe it's been as part of the contract that's still the same. Because even little things like you have to have a studio, so you go out, you'll know this better than me, obviously, from your work with, say, with Virgin and the rugby, where you leave, say, a link to an ad, but it has to be from a studio, because it's the Gazprom ad that comes up, that this game is brought to you by Gazprom, and it has to, apparently, because the link for the ad comes from when you've set it from a studio, apparently it adds to the quality. I don't know. But now stuff like that, little things, it's not the case. And I think it's like 1.2 billion BT paid for over 3 years. Different people were saying that they estimate then that the Irish market is probably worth 1 to 2% of that. Yeah. So that kind of gives you an idea of where you're looking at money-wise. And then, like, even little things like, I spoke to Con Murphy, who people would know, good commentator in Ireland, about it, because he's done stuff as a subcontractor for Livescore, commentating on the Portuguese football, on the Portuguese league for them, because they like Livescore have already got rights for like Serie A. They're an official partner for La Liga in terms of, I think there's a highlights program thing they do, the Dutch league, and obviously the Portuguese league. And in the old Atlanta studios in the Keys in Dublin, he was like saying it's like the United Nations of commentators in there. That there's like a little army of French commentators who live in Dublin who go and commentate on La Liga games as part of this subcontracting that's in these old studios in town, and that there's like Spanish commentators then who'll commentate on other games, and there's like Russian commentators going in who'll be doing stuff in the Croatians for ice hockey and all. And he's like, it's just mad, this little kind of like little mini industry within it, and it kind of gives you the people kind of think the quality is going to totally diminish in terms of say commentating and all the rest, but for a lot of times it's done. I think the phrase is off tube or something, where the people are in a little booth, kind of like commentating on the game, watching it on telly, and you might have like the primary game. You'll have the commentators there, like RTE would have, like, say, cost a fortune. Obviously, they'd have like George Hamilton there, or they'd have Jim Beglin would do one of them, Ronnie Whelan as a co-commentator, and obviously Tony Dunn, who was as a reporter. And like the way it's going, it's looking as if it's going to get further and further away from that.
Well, on that,
possibly, yeah. And
on that, one of the things the off-tube stuff is kind of interesting, because I think most viewers or listeners to radio would have no idea if it's off-tube or on-tube. The commentary, that is, I'm talking about, as in right across the pandemic, obviously, we have stopped sending the likes of Nathan and Steve Doyle and co-commentators to Premier League matches because they couldn't travel during the pandemic, so they were doing it off tube as well. I think in that same studio you're talking about, and like perversely in some ways the audio quality is better because you actually take up the TV feed, which has like these microphones all around the pitch, whereas when we do it, I was going to say properly there, maybe that's not the right way to put it anymore. When we do it at the stadium, we just have our one
a bit more authentic. A bit more authentic,
but we would just have our one mic there picking up the atmosphere in the background. Now, 1,000%, if you talk to the lads, and you can imagine it, you know, they say, being there is just a gazillion times easier. You do a much better job. You're more on top of the game. Sometimes TV pictures show the wrong thing, and you know, it suddenly cuts from a replay and like a player's in one-on-one and you've no idea it's happened. But I would suspect if you go through the text messages or the tweets from the last year plus of Sunday commentary games we've done, I doubt a single person has said it's diminished the quality or there's something different about this, you know. So you can see how if you're UEFA off tube at the match, we don't really care. And they obviously have just taken the view that fans ultimately, yeah, they'd prefer if there was really good analysis around it, but ultimately they're just coming for the sport. So let's just get in the most money, and we're too big to fail. Production values, we're too big to fail. And ultimately, I guess they'll be in control of the feed. So they'll still have X number of cameras at the game, high definition cameras, slow motion shots, all that stuff. Like UEFA will still be controlling the cameras at the stadium. So I guess they figure whatever happens around the showing of those matches, it'll be fine.
Yeah, no, like that does seem to be the case. And like, even like you're looking at it from the point of view of like, I know there's issues, and it was something that I kind of asked in the article that'd be out about the issue with gambling, because obviously like Livescore would have, say, links with, you go on it, even was Richie talking about earlier about how it's like, it is so entrenched with betting, essentially, where you click on and you're able to bet, and like it's part of it's the parent company of like the umbrella companies that are there with Livescore. It's like Livescore Bet, there's Virgin Bet, but then you go on the website, like even I did it earlier, and if you put Livescore into like the App Store and Apple on your iPhone and stuff, like the first app that comes up isn't actually for Livescore, it's for Betway, which kind of gives you an idea of like where it's at a little bit. And then you go on the app, and then there's just pop-ups non-stop. Like, it was more information, not like on that. Like, I know I'm talking to you about it now, and like I did this piece for the Examiner. Like, it does seem as if you're not going to need to have a gambling account, to open up an account to watch it for next season. Right. But that's only for next season. Like, it's a 3-year deal. The statement I got back from them was pretty vague and left it a little bit open that possibly this could change. So that doesn't really fill you with a bit of confidence of where it's at. It's not 100% certain that free to air for the next 3 years, but like they could change the terms and conditions. Yeah, it's free to air, but if maybe after year 2 or into year 3, well, actually, it's still free, but you have to open an account.
Right. Well, that would be open. And look, I'd be remiss of me not to point out that our football show is sponsored by Paddy Power, and we always read out visit gambleaware.ie anytime we do a mention, but nobody has to open an account to listen to the content or view the content. Is that even allowed, that you'd have to open an account?
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Okay. And that's the thing. And it was even like I put it to them, and it was typical. It was like you get in touch with them early this morning when obviously this happened, and you don't hear anything from them, and then you get back in touch, and then you get back in touch again, and then obviously you eventually just as you have your kind of, I suppose, deadline, but are coming towards the end of it, that's when they get back in touch. And it was literally a paragraph, but it was interesting that in the statement that they did give, like, because one of the part of getting a list of questions, and it was like,
right,
is it only for next season? Is it definitely no gambling account needed? And he said for next season. And then, like, obviously they didn't expand on that. That was all they were giving me. They said they wouldn't comment on anything else.
okay.
And so that's something to be. But whether or not it's going to be allowed, I don't know. Like, it was, one thing was interesting was, I know you're talking there about casting, and well, it was kind of put to me as well that, like, it's not so much a case now of these apps, and so you can watch it so much on the go, that wouldn't be surprised if in a while, because of this, Livescore would be one of those permanent apps that are on your smart telly, and you wouldn't even need to cast it then.
Yes, like Netflix or any of those, yeah.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Like, that's the long game a little bit, and it could even be more short to medium term now, because they've got something that would be of great significance. And, like, I know we can listen. Like, I don't bet and I don't gamble, so like a lot of this kind of washes over my head a little bit in terms of I don't really feel the urge, but I know for many more it's totally different. But I do think it's still this can be seen as a major win at the moment for people who are probably paying out a fair bit of money just to maybe, if they want to be Champions League, because like they don't have to now. And
like at the moment it's an absolute win for the consumer in that suddenly every single game is free and they'll be able to stream it on their device or on their TV. RTE are still doing the Tuesday 16 games, and on the Wednesdays we're presuming a broadcaster, quote unquote, will do the other 16 matches on the Wednesday. I mean, like at the moment it's a very good result. Like there's no massive downside to it I can see. There's this degree of almost, we're all approaching this with a degree of caution because it's new almost, but on the face of it, the betting concern you have aside, it looks like she's an absolute winner. I mean, and somebody made the point on the news round, it was either Will or Richie, like a bunch of illegal streaming sites overnight have just taken a serious dint.
Yeah, and that again, that was something that had been mentioned as well in this, is the fact that like people are used to now finding ways around not paying. So now they don't have to pay for an app, and the quality is going to be much better. And the risk is obviously for Livescore to see if it works for them, and it's also for UEFA to see if it damages them. But I don't think it will, unless maybe people after a while realise that they've been hoodwinked somehow, and it is all just some major tie-up with for gambling. But at the moment, it just seems as if, because it is new, like that's the thing, like it's new, so you're kind of a little bit apprehensive about it, but it is it's a game changer really. And it's even speaking to people within it, like I know after, like it was March time when Virgin were told that they were outbid, and they were kind of scrambling over the weekend. I think it was told on Friday, they were scrambling over the weekend to try and find who was actually taking it. And I think there was no one had thought of Livescore, even though they were kind of by stealth maybe increasing their presence, but obviously with Serie A and the Portuguese league and the Dutch league and stuff. But
this is big time now. Yeah, Champions League. No, because it's funny.
Amazon was mentioned. Is it Dazan or Dazan, the other one?
Yeah.
But so it hasn't shocked people, say, within telly in terms of what's happened, but it's just more of a surprise of who's actually taking it on.
Yeah,
in terms of the stream.
Listen, we've done way over. I wanted to talk to you a bit about this game tomorrow. So listen, let's put it this way. They should win, and if they don't win, I will certainly talk to you about this game over the coming days. Let's just leave it at that, and hopefully. So, David Sneyd, people can check your piece out on the Examiner on this. I'm sure that there's loads of interest in it, so they can check it out on the Irish Examiner website or buy the paper tomorrow. In a move, the opposite of Livescore, buying a newspaper tomorrow. Dave, thanks a million. Cheers.
No worries, I'll take care. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much. David Sneyd there with us. We're going to take a short break and then go over to Merseyside. Patrick Boyland is the Athletics Everton correspondent. Carlo Ancelotti seems to have caught everyone by surprise there and up sticks and pitched up at Madrid. And it seems Nuno Espirito Santo is quickly going to be installed as the next man. So we'll get all the details from Patrick.
I've got everything in front of me. So I think I have it. It took me a while to get there.
Okay.
A few of the lads in there earlier on, but I think I've got it. Yeah. The league split up into 4 different leagues. League A, B, C and D. If you win a group, you automatically get into a playoff for Euro 2020 by winning a group.
What?
Yeah. So if you win your group, so if we had, say, Wales and Northern Ireland, we then, I think it comes down to, so if we win League B,
yeah,
and now not necessarily, if you say you win all the games, potentially that gives you the chance you've topped that group. That's how it would work.
So basically the top 4 teams in each league, so the one from each group, will go forward to the playoffs, assuming they haven't qualified for Euro 2020 via their actual qualifying group.
But regardless of anything, Joe,
not like you can break water.
At the end of it, if you top your league, you go into you'll hit then the playoff system. The overall to go to win the overall winner, which will be League A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
If then, as I said before, if you win that league, you automatically then qualify. Hit the playoff for the Euros. That's what you get.
When you say winning the league, what do you mean?
You win the League B.
You get one from pot 1, one from pot 2, pot 3, and it's a 3-team group, and you play them each home and away, and you got 4 games, and then if we win our league, we get promoted to League A.
I don't understand. So if we win our little group with the other 2 teams, let's say it's
no, not necessarily that. If you win your league,
yeah, I was going to say. So if we win our league, say we've Northern Ireland and Wales, and we come out of that group.
Say you win all 4 games. That's the way that you can maybe explain it a little bit. If you win all 4 games, you give yourself a great chance of winning the league, because it's going to come down to goal difference and everything will probably.
So what do you have to do to win your league? I get we have a little group within a league. What do you have to do to win the league? To win League B? You don't know. Kill me there. No, that's fine. You don't know.
Yeah, you've killed me there.
No, that's fine.
Let's not go into that.
No, you screwed up.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Show Me the Science with Professor Luke O'Neill.
A News Talk original podcast series focusing on different issues, from the serious to the silly, all explained through science. Catch up on the podcast series at newstalk.com or on the Newstalk app.
Our intercity trains are now operating at 50% capacity, in line with public health guidelines. That means if you have a necessary journey, you must pre-book your intercity ticket at irishrail.ie. Thank you for helping us all stay safe. From Éireann Road Éireann, part of the Transport for Ireland network.
You know what? Whoever said that nothing in life is free is wrong. My mate, One Leg Larry, got a free ticket to a crocodile enclosure last year. Although, up until that point, we just called him Larry. It's probably a bad example, but what about your PRSI entitlement at Specsavers? That gives you a free eye test and free glasses from their €69 range.
And now get free hearing aids with PRSI too. Book an appointment or find out more at specsavers.ie.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Okay, so let's start with
Laura, school.
Mum, just 2 minutes. My recital's tomorrow.
I know, you can stream your lesson in the car.
With total dedication backed by Ireland's best performing mobile network, amazing things can happen.
You got it.
Enjoy superfast streaming on Vodafone Pay As You Go. Switch today in store or online and get up to €100 off a range of smartphones. Vodafone. Together, we can. Offer subject to availability. Claims based on network test results conducted by Umlaut on 3 major networks in February and March 2021. Terms apply. See Vodafone.ie for full terms.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Welcome back. France 2-0 up on Wales. We have Germany 1-0 with Denmark, and England have taken the lead against Austria into the final 5 minutes in that game. Bukayo Saka with the goal on 57 minutes is where we are there. And Holland 2, Scotland 2 was a full-time result. Sounds like that was an interesting game. So on Everton then, eventful times all of a sudden. Patrick Boyland covers Everton for The Athletic. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, how's it going?
Great. You haven't been watching the England game this evening by any chance, have you?
I have caught the last kind of 15, 20 minutes when the Everton guys started to find their way onto the pitch. So obviously a senior debut for Ben Godfrey and Dominic Calvert-Lewin on as well. Always good to see those guys getting some form of international recognition at least.
To put you on the spot, sorry, and then we'll get into Everton. We were just discussing before you joined us the booing at the start of the game as the players took the knee. And it was loud booing. We played the commentary of John Murray on 5 Live, almost taken aback by the whole thing. Like, there's an instinct to listen to the people booing and say, what's the problem or what's the rationale? I mean, I can't figure one out. I got to be honest. Being on the ground over there, what is this? What are they, when it's so specifically taking the knee, that is, when it's so specifically about, you would think, a fairly agreeable issue, i.e. racism is bad. What is the booing about?
Yeah, I feel myself pretty fortunate to cover a team and a fan base in Everton that tends not to do that kind of stuff. I mean, when fans were allowed in at Goodison Park last season, taking the knee was met with warm applause on the whole. So I'm probably not the best person to explain this, but obviously it is a tendency now in certain parts of the country. And to understand it, it kind of almost goes over my head. But my guess is that these people believe that Black Lives Matter is something more than just an outlet for good, and that they look to protest. And you see silly stuff about people silly stuff from people who say that others are going out and protesting and ransacking streets and all that kind of stuff. I mean, probably couldn't be further from the truth in reality, but that's unfortunately where we are, and what we have to accept at this moment in time is that there's plenty of work still to do.
Yeah, be interesting to see what some of the players say after the game tonight, I guess. You suspect it's going to be a big talking point now. So look, Everton, I mean, there was a quote from Carlo Ancelotti not 10 days ago saying how much he loved Everton and couldn't wait to get cracking next year, and a long happy future in the new stadium and all that stuff. And suddenly Madrid come calling and he couldn't get out of there quickly enough. And I guess it's understandable. I think he's a Spanish girlfriend and really enjoyed Madrid, and they live in the city centre, and he's had some success there. So he's gone. Everton fans and the job he's done, are they that upset that the guy, admittedly with a great name, but the guy who could only get them to 10th has gone? I mean, he wasn't exactly pulling up trees or inspiring much beyond where they should be.
No, he wasn't. You're entirely right. 10th is a disappointment given the money Everton have spent over the last few seasons. And I think the expectation was when Carlo Ancelotti came in that he'd be able to push them on much closer to the European spots almost. So I think Everton fans are more disappointed than anything else. They've seen a manager come in and seemingly embrace the project, embrace the city and the club. Carlo Ancelotti was very fond of telling us in the media how much he loved his walks along the Sefton coast, close to his home in Crosby, and how Everton was a family club and he'd really bought into this ethos. And it was only a few months ago in an interview with ourselves at The Athletic that he mentioned the kind of the greed, as he put it, of these European Super League clubs, this breakaway faction. So I think for us to see what's happened since, and quite how quickly it's happened, maybe suggests that maybe all it's not a particularly happy place on their side at this moment in time. I think Everton fans feel a little bit like they've been left jilted at the altar, and the club has been left in a state of flux. There's almost an acceptance from the fan base and from everybody. The one thing everybody is united on is the fact that there's work to be done on this Everton squad, substantial work to be done on this Everton squad over the summer. And they needed all the pieces in place to hit the ground running over the summer. So Ancelotti leaving leaves a massive dent there and a huge black hole. And this feeling that Everton have been left in the lurch somewhat at very short notice. I think that's what rankles most, maybe even more than the fact that they've lost a manager of Carlo Ancelotti's stature.
Yeah, because initially things seemed quite bright. Money was spent, and like some of it excessive, the likes of Gylfi Sigurdsson, good player and all, but like 50 million. Everyone were paying big money for what they were getting, but then there were little, bright sparks. James Rodriguez arrives, probably the lure of Carlo Ancelotti helps his decision-making in coming to Everton. And you get to win a few games, and it's a good start, and you think, okay, this could be really interesting. Why did it fall off a cliff? Like, where are Everton short on the pitch?
Oh, they've already pinpointed a number of key areas they think no matter how well Seamus Coleman has done in the right back position over the last few seasons, they do believe that they're short of a long-term option in that position, and at least somebody that could push Seamus on the pitch. They believe that they lack dynamism in forward areas, so that's cover up front, that's an option on the wing. Quite one-paced and static in the main, this current Everton side. So there was an acknowledgement that there was work to do, that they did need to bring in, I think Ancelotti was talking about between 3 and 4 players this summer to more or less compete for starting positions. But to answer the question about what went wrong in the season itself, I mean, it was only Boxing Day that Everton win second place in the table and seemingly riding a crest of the wave. What I would say is that they had a lot of injuries, they had a persistent stream of injuries throughout the season, and the players looked tired and fatigued. That was one reason. They almost forgot how to play football, and I think that was part of that was down to Ancelotti's direction. When they started to pick up injuries, particularly James, when he was injured, Ancelotti would retreat into a much more negative, pragmatic and responsive setup.
Okay.
And then when they looked to break out of those quite narrow confines, they then had a struggle on their hands readapting to the free-flowing football of early in the season. And I guess one thing you can say about Carlo Ancelotti is that he's great at eking out every last drop from the top players, the very best players in the world. And you can maybe set up Real Madrid and set out to effectively just put your best players on the pitch, and 9 times out of 10 they will beat an Eibar or a one of the minnows, one of the lesser lights in La Liga. But Everton don't have that calibre of player at this moment in time, and I think at times at home they just looked a little bit devoid structurally, a little bit lacking in ideas. It was almost, as I've joked before, it was almost a give it to James approach and see if he could conjure something. So he, in a sense, was part of the problem. I think he needed longer and would have been afforded longer to turn things around and to try and right some of those wrongs next season. But obviously that's not come to pass, and he's had an opportunity to go back to Real Madrid, the bright lights of Madrid. He obviously had a great time there, and he's taken that opportunity with both hands. There was any doubt in his mind that he was going to leave Everton Football Club when that offer came in.
No. And so to the replacement then, I've seen David Moyes linked with a return. I know he's agreed a 3-year deal with West Ham, may not have literally signed it, but I would be...
that's not signed yet.
Yeah, so I'd be shocked personally. I mean, I don't know why he'd go there, why he'd go back when things are going so well at West Ham, but who knows, stranger things have happened. The name which catches the eye is Nuno Espirito Santo. How close are they to deciding he's their guy, or are we still very early stages? They're still reeling?
We're still very early stages in the process. So Everton's board met on Tuesday to effectively brainstorm a list of targets. Board members were invited to give their own suggestions, but that was ground zero, and it was very much a case of working their way up. I don't yet think we're at the stage where concrete offers are going to be made to managers. They will still need to analyse a list of targets, a long list of targets, it must be said, pour over all the information they've got, the statistics, and almost make a decision from there. And because Ancelotti leaving was such a surprise, I don't think there was a general sense of preparedness for this. It wasn't like they had a succession plan in place. And maybe some supporters will criticise that and say, well, that's why you've got a director of football. You should be ensuring a relatively seamless transition from one managerial regime to the next. But the fact of the matter is that's by the by now. Everton didn't have that in place. They are assessing the viability and feasibility of a number of targets. Nuno is one of those. His name keeps on cropping up and keeps on being mentioned to us. David Moyes keeps being mentioned to us as well. But I'd be pains to stress that they're not the only two guys that are potentially in the frame here. And the other thing to say, of course, is that when Everton hired Ancelotti, originally David Moyes was the front runner for that, and Ancelotti was in the Napoli job. So I think that's a sign of how quickly things can change in football. I think Everton will have more of an idea towards the end of the week what they're likely to do, and I think they are almost prepared to bide their time and analyse a range of targets, in order to get the right one. They know how important this next appointment will be.
Okay. Patrick Boyland covers Everton for The Athletic. Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it.
No worries, pleasure.
Cheers. Should let you know as well, Trent Alexander-Arnold has just limped off for England, and it's just gone full-time in that game. They've beaten Austria 1-0, but Trent Alexander-Arnold limping off, seemed to be in pain straight away, signal to the bench he was done. So I guess any injury now is serious-ish. Tournament gets underway in 11 days' time.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Guaranteed Irish has been around for almost 50 years and has always been about doing the right thing. Today, business members work hard to support jobs, keep our communities alive and help the Irish economy recover. Guaranteed Irish supports 1,500 businesses, from Indigenous SMEs to locally based multinationals, across various sectors, employing over 100,000 people across Ireland. So, look out for the G and know you're playing your part in Ireland's recovery. GuaranteedIrish.ie. Altogether better.
Are you a small business facing financial difficulty due to COVID-19 or Brexit? Microfinance Ireland, a government-funded not-for-profit lender, is here to help. We provide business loans of up to €25,000 to small businesses with less than 10 employees and annual turnover of less than €2 million who've been unable to secure finance from banks or other lenders. For more information, visit microfinanceIreland.ie or talk to your local enterprise office. Microfinance Ireland, supporting you through times of uncertainty.
Business is about to get moving again.
On your mark.
More nimble and more digital, it will be business accelerated.
Get set.
At Volkswagen Financial Services, we're ready with the funding solutions you need. Choose low-cost HP finance, the flexibility of PCP, or the convenience of leasing on every Audi, Skoda, Seat, Volkswagen, Volkswagen commercial vehicle, and now Cupra. Get ready for business at vwfs.ie/accelerated. Finance provided by Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland. Subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply.
Diabetes Ireland's 10K June Bank Holiday Challenge is back. Walk, run or cycle 10K and raise vital funds for our diabetes helpline and education services. To register, visit diabetes.ie or call 01 842 8118. Exercise is so important, so get active and together we can make a difference. Supported by Novo Nordisk Limited.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. This is a big summer for Irish football. All will be revealed. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Okay, so that is pretty much us done for this evening. OTB AM is back with you tomorrow, 7:30. Gerard Owen going through the sports pages. They'll have Jamie Wall on talking hurling, TV highlights with Sue Murphy, and John Duggan will be making his picks for the Memorial Tournament in the golf. And then tomorrow evening, Nathan back in the hot seat. John Giles on the show tomorrow. Be good to get his thoughts on the Champions League final. And obviously the Ireland game kicks off at 5, so John will have had a look at that as well. We'll get his full-time reaction. And then Aisha McFerrin, Ireland's goalkeeper in the hockey, is on ahead of Ireland's crucial game against Holland at the weekend. And more besides, I'm sure, as well. Tom Dunn is on the way next. Good luck.